Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, we saw that the Democratic Party lost everywhere on all levels. So is there a way to recover? And what do you think, how they will recover? What's the way forward for him?
Yeah, good question. So I think my first message to my Democrat brothers and sisters in the U.S. is not to panic. I think, again, I actually think they could bounce back relatively quickly if they act smart and if they learn the right lessons, I think, from what this election just showed us. So again, a number of things, and me and Roddy spoke about this briefly. I think it was the day after the election, a little bit of what the initial view was on what happened, how Trump sort of outperformed most people's expectations. Again, won every swing state, won the popular vote. Again, it was a clean sweep for the Republicans. They really, I think, did better than most people thought they were going to do. That being said, I would say some of the takeaways for the Democrats, first and foremost, number one thing for them to do is to hold an actual primary. Actually let your voters, the Democrat voters, select who the candidate is. So if you look back really over the last 8 years, it has not been a Democratic Party, despite the fact that it has Democrat in the name, right? 2016, I think, I don't know if you knew about this, but Roddy and I talked about it. So Hillary Clinton came into the primary already like 1/3 of the way to the nomination because of superdelegates, which are essentially just party officials and all that who put their hands on the scale for the voting process to pick the Democrat nominee. Okay, so Hillary essentially had won it before she even got there. In 2020, Biden was losing in the primary, and right before one of the critical states, there was like 3 or 4 Democrat candidates who all backed out at the exact same time and endorsed Biden because they wanted to rally around Joe Biden because they thought he was the candidate most likely to win, or the left-wing populists would argue because he was the candidate of the party, of the entrenched interests, whatever. So again, kind of a skewed process from a Democratic perspective. And then obviously 2024, you didn't have a primary at all. So everybody knew Biden was flawed. Everybody could see it in the videos. Everybody could see when he was speaking that he had lost a step or a couple steps. And then the debate revealed it, and they didn't even have a primary. So I would say number one thing, actually have a primary. The Democrats have a lot of policy issues to work out amongst themselves on economic policy, on social policy, on a lot of these issues, immigration policy. But again, I think there's still hope for them. I think what was so interesting is that Trump won literally every subgroup he got more support with. So every racial group he actually expanded support with, except white people. So the Democrats, who've traditionally been the party of, who've had the majority of minority groups supporting them, Trump expanded his support across all of them. He won the most Hispanic support of any Republican in recorded history. So this is a huge problem for the Democrats. But again, all they need to do is actually fix the message, right? So they were running. So in their defense, they put someone like Kamala Harris up there, the sitting VP for a race where 2/3 of the American public was saying that the country was moving in the wrong direction. And then you put someone from the same administration to be the candidate. And when she was asked what she would change about the 4 years that Biden was in power, she said she couldn't think of anything to change. So not a great candidate. The administration was very unpopular. But if they just tweak their message on the 2 top issues, the economy and immigration, I think suddenly they certainly could win again. So again, I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. Again, some of these topics have so far gone in one direction. So things like immigration policy. Immigration, I think Trump won that issue by like 20 points or more than 20 points. It's very obvious you need to change your border policies. That's it. Okay, so change the border policies, come more to the middle of the American public. You can stay left on, I think, a lot of the economic issues. But then it comes down to how extreme do you want to be on some of these more social policies? So whether it's the sort of the gender policy, whether it's police policy, these types of things that are very outside of the mainstream when it comes to most Americans. I think they could certainly bounce back pretty quickly. And again, look, they didn't even lose by that much, right? I think the biggest shock for the Democrats was they lost the first popular vote since 2004, right? They felt like they got beat pretty bad. And look, they did. But it wasn't a landslide. I think that's the one thing that I would caution the Republicans against saying. It wasn't a landslide. You won by 2 points nationally. Barack Obama won by 6 points nationally in 2008. Biden won by 5 points in 2020. So Trump won a mandate, no doubt, but it wasn't a landslide election. So the Democrats certainly can bounce back. I think the one thing they can't do is to blame the voters. That's the thing that I've seen from them, or at least from some of the media aligned to them, who've come out and accused the American public of misogyny, of racism, of these types of things, which, again, of all the options you have to try to salvage your political future and to improve your political future, do not blame the people you want to make vote for you. How does that make any sense? But I think that's what some of them are doing. Now, a lot of them also aren't doing that, which is smart. So I don't know if you know AOC, the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Yes,
okay,
I heard of her.
Yeah, so she's a left-wing populist. She's considered to be one of the farthest left members of Congress. She even came out and took down her pronouns. She had her pronouns in her bio, I think, on Twitter or Instagram or something like that. So in sort of this gesture of, I'm going to try to moderate my own politics on these social issues, she took her pronouns down, which was kind of interesting. Small thing, purely symbolic, but I think the idea is to try to come to the middle on some of these issues. Just don't be so far outside the mainstream. So I think when it comes to things like that, if they just focus on go back to basics, kitchen table issues, what do people talk about at dinner? They talk about the economy, they talk about immigration, the top 2 issues in this last election. So if they can just come to a bit of a reasonable position on that, I think they can stay left-wing on the economy. So again, if you want more government programs, you want free education, you want free healthcare, those are popular topics. Go back to that. Focus on those economic issues and how you're going to make people's lives better, instead of blaming, Trump for, instead of calling Trump a fascist, instead of calling his supporters misogynist and racist. That doesn't work, and that will never work. But I do think moderate on the social policies, hold an actual primary where you let your voters pick who the candidate is. And my guess is the Democrats will be very competitive and be back 4 years from now if they do those things. Big if they do those things. I do think probably, so now I'm going to make a guess. I do think that the outcome of that will probably be more of a left-wing populism that we haven't seen, more of a Bernie Sanders type of approach. So did you see what Bernie Sanders posted on Instagram?
Occasionally, yeah.
So he posted something right after the election, and he said this was a stinging rebuke of the modern Democratic Party. And again, he was personally, sort of sabotaged, you could argue, twice by the Democratic Party. And he was saying, we lost working class white voters in 2016. Now we lost working class voters of all races in 2024. Okay. We need to focus on working people. If the Democrats do that, I think go in a bit more of a left-wing populist approach from an economic perspective. If they come back to reality, I think, on some of these social issues and moderate on some of these, the border, immigration, and whatnot, I think they'll be very competitive. So that's sort of my take. That's my analysis in terms of, I think, what the way forward is. The Democrats, again, to make the Democrats feel a little bit better, not to piss off the Republicans, but to sort of soothe my Democratic brothers and sisters. 1984, Ronald Reagan won 49 states out of 50. The Democrats won the presidential election in 1992, so only 2 cycles after, and then won in 1996 with Bill Clinton. So the Republicans lost in 1992, 1996. They came back and won in 2000, 2004. Barack Obama won a huge landslide by 6 percentage points in the popular vote in 2008. Donald Trump comes in 8 years later. I think the biggest thing, and another sort of interesting point, I mentioned this on the podcast with Roddy. Jon Stewart, the comedian?
Yep.
So he said something I think really astute and really interesting, which was, when you lose an election, particularly in American politics, I don't know if it applies globally, but typically what ends up being the solution is exactly the opposite of what you expect the solution to be. So for example, when Barack Obama won in 2012, the Republicans were, astounded. How did we lose? We put up Mitt Romney, successful guy, very moderate, well-spoken, all these things. How could he have lost to Obama, who actually by that point wasn't all that popular? There was some issues in the country. People weren't really happy with the direction of the country. So everybody was saying, okay, Mitt Romney, Republican Party, how do we go forward? We need to moderate on immigration. We need to be a little bit more soft on these issues, try to attract Hispanic voters. And then who comes to power in the Republican Party? Donald Trump. The exact opposite. So all these smart people, all the political pundits were saying, come to the middle on this issue. Trump goes to the far end on that issue, and he wins the election. And then people said, oh, okay, well, Hillary Clinton lost. We need a young candidate, somebody charismatic. Hillary wasn't very charismatic nor young.
Yeah.
And then who do they put up? The oldest candidate up to that point in history in Joe Biden, and he wins. And then the Republicans say, okay, why did we lose? We got to ditch Trump? No, we go back to Trump, and then he wins. So I think whatever the mainstream thinking is, and right now the mainstream thinking is the Democrats are too far left, I have a feeling that's not going to be the right takeaway. I actually think they will move farther to the left next cycle on economics. And if they do that, while moderating on the other issues, right? They got to moderate somehow. I think they'll be very competitive. So that's my assessment. I think we'll see if it pans out, but I wouldn't be too despondent if I was the Democrats. Again, this stuff is cyclical. It's a pendulum. It swings back and forth. So that's my take. Yeah. But anything from your side?
Yeah, I saw a couple of interviews with the voters right before the elections, and the interesting thing I noticed, actually, to your point on the policies, what I noticed is a lot of people who was going to vote for Democrats, what they said, it was like this: I don't like or I don't understand the program of the Democrats. I like the program of the Republicans, but I cannot vote for Donald Trump, so I will vote for Kamala Harris. So what I'm thinking based on this is the Democrats, they should streamline the program, like clarify it, make the clear points. What is your program? What is your agenda? What are the policies you want to put in place? Because Republicans are quite clear about this. Like, and even in the debate, I think we saw it. And the whole program of Kamala Harris was like, everything will be good if I take the office. Everything will be good, and I'm not Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. This is not the program. Like, exactly. you don't give anything to your to the voters. You don't give them actual content. So probably, to your point, is what will help the parties to actually streamline the program, to clarify what you're going to achieve, what you're going to do. And the second take, again, from the same interviews, a lot of people mentioned that I am still with the Democratic Party, but what I don't like is how left it become. That it's becoming too socialistic, too like unattractively, uncomfortably socialistic. And I like in the people who's been raised in the whole capital world, like in the capitalism, like they didn't want this direction. So probably again, like if you're saying that they will go even far to the left, probably this will be the not the best way to do for them. Like it should, like they should stay more centric. So yeah,
that's
totally agree.
Yeah, but it's an interesting take. So I think to your point about the Harris point, I think she fell into the Hillary Clinton trap. She fell exactly into the Hillary Clinton trap, where again Hillary had all these policies but never talked about them. You never could articulate clearly Hillary Clinton stands for X, Y, and Z. I think Hillary, again, very, she was a political machine. She's been in, she'd been in politics forever. Very intelligent woman, no doubt about it. But I think she just fell into the trap of, I'm going to demonize Trump, right? She did the basket of deplorables where she called half of Trump supporters racist, misogynist, sexist, homophobes, whatever you want to call it.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
I think, again, that hurt her, obviously, because then it's like, okay, great, you are telling me not to vote for this person, but then who are you telling me to vote for? Like, what am I voting for? Kamala did the same thing. Yeah. So again, Kamala, she had all these policies. Oh yeah, $50,000 for small business. No, give me something tangible. Like, Trump is very clear. We're going to tariff the hell out of everybody. Foreign policy is going to be, we're going to be so strong. We're going to whatever, we're going to build the military. Very clear sound bites, easy to understand. Border, we're going to close the border. We're going to build a wall. Yep. Where was Kamala's policy on immigration? Honestly, nobody has any idea. Yep. And I follow politics all the time. Yep. I had no idea what her actual policy was going to be. Yep. So I think, as you said, streamline the program, be clear. The left-wing point, though, that's where I think it's going to get interesting. because I think, again, the Democrats can move farther to the left on economics if they moderate on the other issues.
Okay.
Because they've gone too far, I think, for most people on the other issues. But anyways, I
All
think
right.
we've clarified that point.